Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me. One more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
I call to order the meeting of the Committee of the Whole on November 17, 2025 at 6:40 p.m. First item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Administrator Brecklin, could you do a roll call for us, please?
I can actually do
I'm
that
sorry.
for you.
Tracy's here.
It's okay.
Tracy.
All right. Thank you. Mayor Radafrada. Here. Alder Dancer Jr.
Here.
Alder Gerhardt.
Here.
Alder Herbst.
Here.
Alder Jutzer.
Here.
Alder Lattice.
Here.
Alder Maldonado.
Here.
Alder Ragsted.
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item is the approval of minutes. I'll need a motion on the draft minutes of the October 29, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting.
So moved to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jetzer, second by Lattice. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, explanation of voting process for the November 25, 2025 Common Council meeting. Chad?
Good evening, Common Council members. As you know, tonight we're here to interview two of our community members who have expressed interest in the District 4 Aldermanic District vacancy. And we'll be voting on November 25th at our regularly scheduled Common Council meeting at 6:30 p.m. We do expect that alders will be in person for that meeting, at least for the voting portion of that meeting, and we will look to have the vote towards the beginning of the meeting. The process that will be used that evening to vote, the candidates that are here tonight will be afforded a 3-minute opportunity to provide one last statement to the Common Council before the vote. There'll then be a motion to proceed with the voting process, and of course a second and ultimately a vote on the motion. And I should back up just real briefly. After the candidates are afforded their 3 minutes to provide a verbal statement, I just want to reiterate that no questions are allowed on the 25th. So if you do have any questions for the candidates, tonight is the night to ask those questions. Assuming that there's a motion that's passed to vote, Tracy Oldenburg, our clerk, will be handing out printed ballots to each of the Common Council members. You will vote for your selected candidate. Tracy will collect those ballots and then read those votes, I guess in some way, shape, or form, like Survivor. And then whomever is selected, assuming they have a majority of votes, Tracy will swear them in. And Council President Gerhardt and Mayor Radafrada intend to make committee appointments that evening as well. And then, of course, after they're sworn in, they're able to take the seat and participate in the meeting as a voting member of the Common Council. And after the selection is made, City Attorney Zisman and I will be reaching out to the selected candidate to schedule an orientation and onboarding process for them. So Does anybody have any questions on how the process will go on the 25th? And I will also add, the mayor will vote only in the case of a tie. Any questions about the 25th? Seeing none? All right, thank you.
Our next item is item 6, introduction of interview process for the candidates. So tonight we have 2 candidates with us. The interview process works as follows. We have time limits for each of the sections. We do not have to use that entire time, but it'll be a hard stop at that time so that there's the same amount of time for both candidates. There'll be a 5-minute opening statement from each of the candidates, or sorry, we're going to do one candidate at a time. 5-minute opening statement, followed by 30 minutes for prepared questions that I will read. And then after those questions are done, we will do a maximum of 15 minutes of follow-up questions from the alders and the mayor. We will go, so everyone will get a chance to ask one question. You can feel free to pass if you don't have one. And then we'll go through and try to ask as many questions as we want in that 15-minute time window. And again, these are maximum times. You do not have to fill up that entire 15 minutes, although I'm sure we will. And then finally, there's a 1-minute closing statement from the candidates in case there's anything else that you want to add. We actually did a coin flip right before the meeting. The coin flip decided that Jake will be first. So if you want to come on up here, we will get you started, and then Adam will find a nice room for you and invite you back in when we're ready for you. Thank you. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. So we've already done the coin flip before the meeting, and we've told you the results. So we're going to move on to item 8, public appearances for non-agenda items. There is nobody in chambers nor online for non-agenda items, so we can move on to item 9, agenda items. 9A, interview of candidates for a vacant city council seat for the Aldermanic District for seat 8. Jake, you are up first. You can start with a 5-minute candidate introduction, and then we'll roll into questions, and you can get started whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I guess I would begin by just saying thank you for this opportunity. I feel humbled to be in a position to possibly serve this city that I now call home. So I come from a family of public service. My father was a police officer. My mother was a public school teacher. My sister is a nurse, and she serves in the Navy Reserves. And growing up in that environment, I really learned to put my community and serving other human beings at the center of what I do. So I saw my mom educating young children, but also collecting warm clothes and food for folks in her classroom for her entire career. And I saw my dad missing holidays and weekends and time with his family in order to serve our community, and that had a big impact on me. So Fitchburg is obviously a place that I live, but more than that, it is a place that I have now put down roots. It's where my daughter is going to grow up. It's where I will grow older with my husband, and it is a community that I feel a sense of stewardship towards. So to share some of my background, I have been a police officer, now a police sergeant, for almost 10 years. I've held a number of roles. I've been a community officer, I've been an LGBT liaison officer, I have been an evidence technician, and what policing has taught me more than anything is the importance of, again, putting human beings at the center of what we're doing. Policing is a field where you see a lot of tragedies, you experience things that a lot of other people do not and will not. I know what it feels like to save a life and feel that joy, and I also know what it feels like to fail to save a life. And the only thing that can bring communities together in the wake of those kinds of things is making that strong human connection with other people. And so that's at the center of my philosophy of public service. I have volunteered as an EMT for a number of years. I learned the importance of meeting people with compassion when they're at their most vulnerable. I also served in the Wisconsin Army National Guard for 6 years. I formed very strong connections with an incredibly diverse group of people, and I learned what it is to serve a purpose greater than oneself. So ultimately, my experience sort of comes with problem solving, listening, and really placing humans at the center of everything that I believe. I also have some accomplishments I'm proud of. In my work as a police officer, I was fortunate enough to do a policing fellowship last year, and the culmination of that work was I wrote curriculum that is now being implemented in the police academies across the entire state to teach police officers how to have respectful and positive interactions with LGBT people. I've also done work with mental health crisis response training for police officers, working with co-disciplinary teams, making sure that officers feel empowered to make the best decisions and find the best possible resolutions for people in crisis. My educational background is I attended UW-Madison for my undergraduate degree in legal studies, gave me a really foundational understanding of the law, but also where the law fails people. My master's degree is in Homeland Security and Geospatial Intelligence, which gives me an understanding of how to use data to manage emergencies and reduce risk. And I'm currently pursuing my doctorate degree in law and public policy. My research will be on police officers' perceptions of transgender people, what forms those perceptions, and how they might be influenced. So ultimately, I hope to serve in this role because it feels like a continuation of the public service that I've already done for most of my adult life. I think I bring a very unique blend of frontline experience, academic rigor, and also humanist values to everything that I do. Fitchburg is at an inflection point, and I'm very proud of the policing service that I've done, but I would love to be able to serve people in a way that things that touch them on a more daily basis than public safety does, thankfully. So transportation, housing, recreation, these are the things that improve people's quality of life, and I think have an opportunity to impact that is really profound. So just to conclude, I'm really, more than seeking the title, I'm seeking the responsibility. And ultimately, I want my daughter to say that she's proud to grow up in Fitchburg, and to also say that she's proud that her dad played a small part in shaping it. So thank you.
Thank you, Jake. We'll move into the questions now for the next 30 minutes. And these questions, the only people that have seen these in advance were myself, the mayor, and then the city staff. You have the questions in front of you in case you want to read them. And first question is, how do you view community service, and what service have you provided to the community in the recent past?
Community service, in my opinion, is integrating oneself into the community and forming meaningful relationships in order to solve problems. So I guess an example that I would give is for a number of years, I have volunteered with an organization in Dane County where they pair mentors with people who, with children who have a parent who's incarcerated. So what that did for me was, I'm serving in a role of a police officer. I arrest people. They get involved with the justice system. Quite frequently, I don't have to experience any of what goes on behind the scenes when someone is arrested and we're no longer having that interaction with them. So volunteering in this way and building this relationship with this kid, he's actually now graduated and he joined the Navy recently. But for 10 years, I met up with him very regularly. I saw what the justice system impact had on him as a child. And so community service is more than just doing positive things and volunteering here and there. That's certainly part of it. But ultimately, to serve one's community is to build strong relationships, understand the needs of the people in those communities, particularly the most vulnerable people, and using your positionality and your talents and abilities to improve their quality of life.
Thank you. Our second question, what part of the role of Alder do you feel most prepared for? And what part of the role would you find most challenging, and how would you handle that?
I feel the most prepared for questions involving public safety, I would say. Clearly, all of my adult experience is full-time work as a police officer. I have done a number of things in the police department. I've written policy. So I feel like I have a very deep understanding of the inner workings of a police organization, a public safety organization. I also feel like I have an understanding of what makes a community safe and what public safety really means beyond just police, fire, EMS, the traditional concepts of it. So I feel very well positioned to contribute to making Fitchburg a safe, continuing to keep it a safe place to live, but also building on that concept of what public safety means. So looking at alternative response models, and I know there's work being done in the healthy neighborhoods, and so having that holistic view of what public safety is and making sure people have access to opportunities in education and healthcare, I feel very well positioned to contribute to that. The part of the role that I think is going to be the most challenging to me, frankly, when I was preparing for this interview and reviewing budgets and things on everything I could find about Fitchburg, it was a little bit overwhelming. And there is such a profound amount of things that I clearly do not know very much about. And I had to Google what a tax increment district is. And so those sorts of things I know are going to be a steep learning curve for me. However, I have approached every role I've ever held in my life with a spirit of tenacity. I'm a lifelong learner, and when I don't understand something and I don't feel confident in something, the only way that I reduce my anxiety with those types of things is by diving headfirst in, and I tend to be a pretty quick study, and when I'm investing my energy and time into something like this, I don't stop until I feel that I am giving my all to that role. So certainly I know there's so much I don't know, but I have the humility to seek out that information and use all of you all and the folks that work for the city of Fitchburg and all the other resources that I can find to overcome that weakness.
Thank you. What, in your opinion, are the three most important issues facing the city of Fitchburg?
As I mentioned briefly in my opening statement, Fitchburg is obviously at an inflection point. All of Dane County is growing incredibly rapidly, and Fitchburg as a subsection of that is. So with rapid growth, you have to manage all the infrastructure challenges that come with that. So I guess if I had to point to one, I would say I think housing is one of the main challenges. I know, for example, that Fitchburg's median home price is very, very high, and I know that the rental incomes are not necessarily, or the rental prices are not necessarily commensurate with that. So addressing the housing supply in Fitchburg, I think it should be a priority of this council, and my understanding has been. Additionally, I think transportation is something that is an issue that's going to face Fitchburg as it continues to grow. Naturally, we live in a very car-centric society. However, if we want to grow and have a city that is dense and serves the people in this community and who work all over the place, I think it's important to have a very comprehensive multimodal transportation system that will serve the needs of the community. I used to take the bus to work when I lived in Madison, and if I was going to take the bus to work right now, it would take me about an hour and 10 minutes to get downtown. So I certainly can empathize with the sometimes lack of those diversity of options when it comes to transportation. And third, I would say, I guess, climate change, environmental sustainability would be something that I believe is really important. Even just anecdotally, I've seen much less snow in these winters than I did growing up, and I really do want my daughter to grow up and have snow days from school every once in a while. And I think those kind of meaningful experiences are going to be much rarer with the way the climate is presently. So any impact that a city can have on reducing its carbon footprint and contributing to communities that are going to be sustainable and provide green spaces and be good stewards for the future of the environment, I think is a very important thing for the city, and I think it's something the city's going to have to face as they address these other challenges that I mentioned.
Fitchburg is growing rapidly. How would you balance the needs of our current residents with those of our future neighbors?
I think that's a very unique challenge. When I think about my experiences with conflict and building consensus among people, it's really important that people have the opportunity to feel heard, but also more than that, just to feel understood. So, for example, people are much more willing to accept outcomes when they feel that they have genuinely had a say in whatever that outcome is. So it's going to be really important as the city is growing to bring people who have a stake in what is happening to the table, and not only listening to them, but make sure that they have a role to play in shaping the future of the city throughout that. So if you're making a housing development, not just having a listening session and then going off with whatever the plan is, build opportunities throughout that to integrate those people who have made this place their home and have called it a home for a long time to have a say in what the future of the city looks like. I believe that people understand that growth is inevitable and change is inevitable to a certain extent, and I'd like to believe that most people are willing to accept that aspect of it, provided that they feel that they have had the opportunity to meaningfully contribute to what that future looks like.
What does the city need to do to maintain or improve the quality of life for Fitchburg residents?
I think everyone would probably have a different answer to that depending on their position within the city and what they care about. I think one of the things that I really like about Fitchburg that I know has been a priority is the maintaining and development of green space. I think when I spoke to the mayor, she mentioned the initiative of having a park within 10 minutes walk of everyone. We certainly have a park within 3 minutes of my house, and it's a phenomenal thing. So I think that maintaining that sort of holistic environment where people have access to recreational spaces and businesses and things of that nature within close proximity to their home is something that I have certainly valued in my location in Fitchburg, and I think that maintaining that sort of concept in mind of really interdisciplinary, I don't know if that's the term, but like residential neighborhoods that include businesses and places for people to recreate, that will certainly maintain a quality of life for people in Fitchburg in a lot of different places. However, I also do recognize that there are places in Fitchburg that don't have all those opportunities right now. So I think for those sorts of neighborhoods, addressing pressing public safety needs, building those more comprehensive public safety systems that I kind of briefly talked about, where people have access to police, fire, EMS services, but also to mental health care and regular health care and food and economic opportunities. Addressing those things, I think, can improve the quality of life for everyone in the whole city because it makes everyone feel more connected, but especially folks who are maybe lacking some of those opportunities right now. I think that would greatly improve a lot of folks' quality of life in those spaces.
What is your position on housing growth in the city, and how do you think the city is handling housing?
As I mentioned, I know that is probably the number one most pressing challenge facing the city right now. So I think that the initiatives that the city's undertaking, especially as far as like housing affordability and helping people who would not otherwise have that opportunity to own a home in Fitchburg, fostering that and bolstering that with the resources of the city, I think is phenomenal. Especially considering that the median home price in Fitchburg is probably out of reach for a significant portion of the population of Fitchburg. Really building that holistic housing model where folks who want to own a home have that opportunity and folks who want to rent here can do that, I think is really important. I think also my understanding of the way that Fitchburg is handling housing is looking at it with that very holistic model that I've sort of mentioned a few times. So not just building houses for the sake of building houses, but considering the businesses that can be in those spaces and considering the transportation and the public transportation that's going to serve those places, I think is really, really important to growing housing rapidly in a city like this. I also am very aware that a lot of the places where housing is coming up is in our rural spaces and in agricultural spaces, and it's important to consider the needs and the voices of those folks who are living in those places and own that land right now in the development of the city, and I think Fitchburg is doing a good job at that, and I think that's going to be really important to continue moving forwards.
What one service, program, or initiative have you experienced here in Fitchburg that makes you proud to call our city home?
I suppose I have been fortunate enough to not directly need the services of an EMS agency for myself. However, I have worked very closely with a number of the folks that work for Fitchrona EMS, and I can say very unequivocally that the medics and the folks that work on that service are some of the finest in the state. So I am incredibly proud of the amazing care that they provide and the dedication those folks show, but also the way they're really pushing the bounds of what an EMS agency can do and constantly developing their skills and contributing to the furtherance of EMS and the quality of EMS services in the entire county with the initiatives that they're doing. And that's, I think, a really phenomenal and unique thing that Fitchburg offers that a lot of other communities are not necessarily as fortunate to have.
How do you plan to keep yourself updated about the changing needs and issues of your constituents?
With my knowledge of District 4, but also my observation of different folks on the council, I think we have the ability to use technology as a way to connect rapidly with a broad range of people. So I think I just saw that the alders are going to have blogs. I think that's a great way to stay connected with one's constituency. I know alders have social media pages and write newsletters. I really think that those are great ways to stay connected with the needs of one's constituency. However, I also think that it's important to be analytical about looking at how you are actually connecting with those people and if that's reaching the audience you intend to. So knowing that District 4 is a very rural space and maybe not all of the folks in that community are using social media platforms or using the internet even, I think making oneself available in different ways in different parts of the community so that you can reach all of the different stakeholder groups is important. So I would plan to make a meaningful effort to connect with folks in those communities if I can see that I'm not connecting with them in the way I want to via technological platforms. And I also think that, I know a District 4 alder has to serve on the Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee. So putting yourself intentionally into those listening spaces where you're making sure all the different voices in your community are heard and in the neighborhood associations and things of that nature is how I would stay connected about what the different communities in my district need, and also make sure that all the different voices are being heard and listened to.
And then how would you ensure that you include all the diverse voices of your constituents?
A lot of my work in policing has been connecting with very vulnerable communities and communities that have been historically very distrustful of police. So, for example, in my fellowship work that I was doing the past year, the trans community and the gender diverse community has had historically extremely negative experiences with police officers. And I found when I was beginning my work, it was frankly really difficult to even get someone on the phone or answer an email for me to try and form that connection. And so what I saw that it took was I had to 100% put my ego aside and meet people where they were in order to build that trust and build that foundation. So when I was having my initial meetings with this group of people, I promised that I would meet them in a neutral space. I did not go in uniform. I didn't even go armed. And that was my way of building that faith with this group of people slowly so that I could establish that trust with a human-to-human connection. So I think when you're looking at the role of an elder, building relationships with diverse communities happens in two ways. One, it is meeting that community where they are and with their level of trust and being willing to put one's ego aside and really listen to the needs of that community in a non-judgmental manner and being willing to acknowledge failures of the past in order for moving forward in the future. I also think that representation is really important when it comes to diversity. So having a broad range of experiences and a broad knowledge base on a city council really goes a long way to serve diverse voices. So if you are trying to connect with the veteran community, you have a veteran meet with those groups of people. Or if you're trying to connect with the LGBT community, maybe there's someone who identifies with that community on the council, finding the people within the government who can empathize more closely with certain voices and who are going to have a certain level of built-in trust because they share a common identity, I think goes a really long way into making sure that all the voices are heard in one's community.
Describe a time when you had to compromise. How did you ensure the best outcome?
I think I would point to my fellowship work again. So on the other side of this fellowship, I had to work with a lot of law enforcement leaders and leaders at the state, and I met a lot of skepticism in regard to trying to push forward this curriculum that I was saying we need this, and I was imposing it on a lot of people to a certain extent. And so I had to meet that group in a similar way. I will say that when it came to compromise in that regard, I wasn't willing to compromise my values and the things that I felt were important, but I was willing to compromise on methodology and perhaps what the end result looked like. So when I brought this project to the table and I had a backing of support from people who were willing to make sure that this project got pushed forward in a certain regard, I then took a step back and heard these folks' concerns about what the ideology was going to look like and what this training was going to look like and how there was going to be the time for it within the curriculum. And ultimately, sort of starting with my base of this is where I'm at and this is what I want my end goal to be, and understanding that these folks also wanted to make improvements to this same curriculum, but they maybe had a different path for how to get there. We can start with our same mutual end goal of wanting our police officers in Wisconsin to be as prepared as possible, and then build backwards from there so that we both ultimately reach the mutual conclusion of these changes to the curriculum, and it looked the way that was acceptable to both groups of people.
How do you plan to deal with with conflicting public input on challenging issues?
I spend a fair amount of my week interacting with people who are not necessarily pleased to have an interaction with me. So that has given me, I think, strong communication skills in regard to dealing with conflict and dealing with people who have very strong opinions about things. And what my policing experience especially has taught me is that people are very willing to accept outcomes if they feel that they were listened to and understood completely. So I think that when you have challenging issues that are contentious within the community, you have to ensure that everyone who has a say in what is going on feels that they have been heard and understood and listened to, regardless of what the outcome is. I also think when it comes to challenging issues, sometimes the loudest voices are not necessarily the ones that are most representative of what the issue is. So I think when you're dealing with conflicting public opinion about things, it's also important to identify who that decision is going to affect most significantly and ensure that those voices are having a seat at the table. So like in my public policy work, we've done stakeholder analysis, so you can place people on a chart of their interest in an issue and then their power to address that issue. So when you have these conflicting issues, if you know that there's a group of people who has very little power to do something about it, but they have very high interest and their voices are not being heard, seeking out those voices so that you get a very holistic picture of whatever the issue is, and that everyone feels that they have been listened to when the solution is ultimately forged.
And final question, if appointed to the Common Council, would it be in your intention to run for re-election in April 2026?
Yes.
All right, so that is the end of the prepared questions. We're going to move on to reset the clock and do 15 minutes for questions from the alders and the mayor. I'd like to go down the line and have everyone have an opportunity to answer one question, and then we will just do a round robin. People raise their hands, get my attention, and we'll continue on with questions after that. Donald, since you're online, please raise your hand if you want a question. I won't include you in the initial round robin. Can we start with Dave?
Could I kick it off?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, Donald, please kick it off.
All right, hold on one second. Sorry, I'm in the airport moving around. My apologies for being off camera. But my question for you is, the decisions of local government officials impacts the neighbors they serve. As a member of council, could you describe your decision-making process when faced with difficult decisions? Specifically, what data would you use? Where would you obtain it? And through what lens would it be analyzed to reach your decision? Or through which lens would it be synthesized to reach your decision?
I'm one who finds confidence in having in as much preparation as possible for something. So when I am approaching an issue or problem, I seek out folks who I know have addressed an issue like that before. I also try to have, with my academic background, I generally seek out any sort of scholarship that has been done on a specific issue in the past and try to get a feel for what academic research says about a specific issue. And that generally gives me a fairly solid foundation. I also know that Fitchburg has a tremendous amount of resources on its website and in the GIS space. I have a lot of experience in reading and breaking down state statutes and writing policy. So I feel confident in using all of those things to holistically put all of my information together to make an informed decision about something. And the lens that I use when I make my decisions, I think I sort of emphasized in the beginning with my opening statement, but all of the work that I have done in my adult life, I really look at it through a humanist lens, and I want to make sure that anything that I'm doing or any decisions that I make are going to have the most positive impact on the largest number of people I can, and especially if those people have historically been underserved or are part of a vulnerable population. That is the lens through which I would make any decisions.
Thank you.
Dave?
Jake, developers, realtors, and I suspect a number of current council support expanding the urban service territory to Whalen Road. Okay, what is your thoughts on this, since the expansion will have the most effect on District 4?
I think I probably touched on that slightly in some of my answers, but that's when I go on runs, that's the bike path that I run down towards that road, and I recognize that is a very rural and agricultural area of the city. So naturally, I support development of Fitchburg, and I think it is important. However, I think that any development that is going to happen in that space has to happen intentionally, and I think it will be very important for the people who live in those areas to not just have a seat at the table, but really have a hand in shaping that community to in a way that will be acceptable to them. And I also think that it's important from the Common Council perspective to not always undertake the decision path that is going to maybe be the most fiscally lucrative or please developers the most. I think that there is something to be said for preserving agricultural and rural areas and the soul of a city and what people understand a city to be when you are undertaking development. So I don't necessarily think that the economic voices should always outweigh all the other voices that are coming to the table.
Thank you.
Joe?
In your talk, you talked about other forms of public safety besides the traditional ones that we think of. I know that in the past the cities applied for the CARES CARES program. You mentioned mental health. Would you go more in depth on the forms of public safety that the city can invest in and how we can invest in them?
Absolutely. So I work for a campus police organization. We have a co-responder team where we as police officers will respond to the scene of a mental health call, and when we determine that it is safe, and this is a call that could be serviced by these co-responders who are trained mental health providers, they will come to the scene with us. The city's CARES model is slightly different. My understanding is that it's like a social worker, mental health clinician, and then a paramedic. So those teams traditionally respond without the police or concurrently with the police in some situations. However, these models, when they have been instituted nationwide, have been monumentally successful, and the city's CARES team has continued to expand and demonstrate positive utilization. So I think bringing something like that to Fitchburg is a logical next step. However, public safety has so many different things that have been demonstrated to have really positive evidence-based impacts on communities. Community paramedicine is another one. So having paramedics and medical providers who can go out into the community and provide sort of routine medical care, medication management in some cases, to members in the community so that they're not needing to frequently call ambulances to be taken to a hospital, which is significantly more expensive from the EMS standpoint. I think that's also a really powerful way to build a public safety community, and I think it's something that is reasonable to explore for Fitchburg's future. The last thing I think I would mention would be there's a effort in a lot of places to form co-disciplinary teams of essentially any public social service that you could think of. So you might have the elder support workers, and then you have the police department, and you have mental health clinicians, and you have EMS organizations, and you have community centers. You have all these people regularly coming together to look at cases of members of the community who are frequently come into contact with these different groups, and so they can share information, and everyone can put all of their resources together to find the best possible solution to get this person in a place where they need to be. So those sorts of things that I have experience with in policing are things that I know Fitchburg has looked at, and I think would really go a long way towards building that more holistic vision of public safety that communities in this county are moving towards and should continue to move towards.
Bill?
Yeah, this is, we've kind of been touched on multiple times here, but when you need to balance the needs of the current people, the current residents with the future residents, you've said, you look at it through a humanist lens and you want to help the largest group of people that you can. Many times the largest group of people that you're going to be helping are not here yet. They are the people who will move to Fitchburg in the future. So how do you balance, how do you convey that information in a way that is, palatable by the current residents?
So the question is, how do you convince the folks who are already living here that the housing that you're building for the people who will move here is a benefit to them? That's a very good question. I think, I guess I don't want to continue leaning on my same answer for everything, but I think folks do understand that change is inevitable. I think folks that live in a city recognize that growth is good. And I think framing that growth in a way of how it will be beneficial to the folks that live there already is important. So if you have people who are living adjacent to a proposed new development, explaining to these groups of people that, hey, these are the businesses that we think are going to come in here. There's going to be grocery stores, and these are the restaurants that we're looking at. Also, this is going to expand public transportation access to this entire community if we build this new development, because the need's going to be higher. I think those are ways to sort of sell the development as a net positive, both for the people who are going to eventually live there, but also for the people that are currently in that space. So helping them overall understand, I don't like to say like what's in it for them, but how the city is being intentional about ensuring that growth has a positive impact on everyone to the extent possible.
Julia? Logan?
All right, I'm going to kind of go on the flip side of some of these tough votes here. So we've talked a lot about how you would use decision or data and informed conversations from constituents to make decisions. How would you go about talking to an upset constituent about a vote that you took that you were on an opposite side of compared to this hypothetical constituent? How do you explain your thought process and kind of come to that that point where you can clearly explain why you voted the way you did?
I tend to be a person who is very, I guess I am very outwardly emotional, is a way to put it. But I don't tend to shy away from expressing my feelings about things. And so I am willing, when I have conversations with people, to share with them the entirety of what goes into my decisions. And so ultimately, if a decision I made because it aligned deeply with my values, even if it was not the most prudent fiscal decision, or it didn't go along with the majority, that's something that I'm willing to do. And then on the flip side of that, when I don't necessarily have a vested emotional interest in a decision, but this person does, I would ensure that they had the opportunity to voice their perspective to me. I think I have the humility to recognize that a decision I made, I might have not made with the complete amount of information that I needed, and this person then, even if it's after a decision has already been made, would give me new perspective for the future. Otherwise, I would share maybe some of the information that I had that this person didn't, and say, this is the data and all of the information that I used to inform this decision, and recognizing that a good majority of the time, we're probably not going to reach any sort of mutual understanding or agreement, but accepting that and meeting that interaction with respect and humility, like I said, I think would be how I would approach that.
Micah.
So I very much respect the philosophy of I make my decisions based on what is the good for the greater number of people. At the same time, District 4 represents the vast majority of the agricultural land in the city, which just by definition is a very small population in the city. And so a lot of the times, what is good for the greater number of people in Fitchburg doesn't necessarily include that population. So how do you go about balancing that between that and representing that community just as part of your district and balancing that with the rest of the needs of the city?
As I mentioned, I think I don't necessarily think that the best decision is always going to be the one that is the most economically prudent, which I think would often be where the challenge lies between those two different groups. However, I do think that there are ways where you can incorporate the things that would benefit larger, more dense population centers and also benefit these groups. I think of all the thing that's springing to mind is all the solar projects that Fitchburg has and the solar fields. So my assumption would be that the folks that have these solar panels on their land have consented to them being there and recognize their benefit overall to the sustainability of the city and maybe get a certain benefit from that. So I see my time is running low, but I think trying to find some sort of mutually beneficial solutions to those kinds of issues is how I would address that.
And we're at the end of that 15 minutes. And so finally, I have an opportunity for a 1-minute closing statement if you'd like.
I think I've given a fairly comprehensive picture of who I am as a person. I really, again, appreciate this opportunity. I want nothing more than to continue to serve the public in this different role and to have the opportunity to serve this community that is now my home. Kind of building on what I opened with, growing up in a family of public service. My mom always told me, and my sister, that whatever we did when we grew up, we had to make a positive impact on the world. And so if I were to be appointed to this alder seat, know that that is my mindset in everything that I would do. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming out tonight. We'll see you on the 25th.
Okay, thank you very much.
Next up is going to be our other candidate, Adam. We are going to get him. He was not in the room for the first interview, so we were grabbing him to come. Hi, Adam. Just to refresh your memory, we'll do a 5-minute introduction, then we'll move into 30 minutes of prepared questions that I will read. Then we'll do 15 minutes of questions from the alders, and then finally wrap it up with a 1-minute closing statement. And again, that's a maximum time for each of those. We don't have to use that entire time. And if we do run out of time in that 30 minutes, we'll just cut it off and move on to the next section.
Got it.
And so you're up first. If you'd like to do a 5-minute introduction, go ahead.
Sure. So I am Adam Geil. I have been a Fitchburg resident since 2017. I live with my wife in about the center of the south side of District 4. We live in the home that she grew up in. Her dad built, and it left family ownership, and now it's back. So we live there. I own and operate a 108-acre farm in the southeast corner of the city. That's since 2020. I grew up in Monona, so I'm not far from childhood home. We owned a farm in Dodgeville as well, 300 acres out there that my dad operated. Later in life, it became a leased property. I attended Monona Grove High School, lived there all my childhood, then went on to MATC for a degree in land surveying. After that, I went to UW-Madison for human geography, which is the study of people and place, and then also cartography and GIS. After UW, I tried to figure out a way to continue there. I was on the cycling team, and I loved it. Never won a race or came anywhere close to winning, but supported the team either way. After that, I went on to Texas A&M for a master's in real estate law. Like I said, I operate a 108-acre farm here in Fitchburg. I also operate a small land surveying business where I do very small selective work. I have been with Madison Gas and Electric since 2017 as their supervisor of rights-of-way and land surveying. So we oversee all of our internal surveyors, right-of-way staff, real estate agents, and then also third-party contractors as well. I'm eager to fill this position. There's a large portion of Fitchburg that's ready to grow and expand, and also a large portion of that same area that has deep agricultural history and wants to preserve that. So I think my background is very diverse and well suited to work with all of those folks in that arena.
Thank you. So we can move into questions, and you do have the questions in front of you in case it's easier for you to read them. And I'll start with question 1. Oh, we'll wait for the time. How do you view community service, and what service have you provided to the community in the recent past?
I think community service is something that maybe to some extent we're all obligated to do. If we want to participate in our community, I think we have to give back. That's also something that not everybody is suited for or wants anything to do with, and I respect that. But for me, I feel like I should give more than I take, and sometimes I can only do that through a voice or through representation, through relationships that I have with people in the community. An example of that is, or would be, my service with Ag and Rural Affairs Committee. Something that not only is it near and dear to me, but I know something about, not a whole lot about. Farm finances sort of illustrate that, but I love it. I'm passionate about it, and it's a big part of who I am and who my family is. So I'm happy to serve on a committee like that. I also serve on Zoning Board of Appeals Committee. My background in real estate law and public utility service. I held a job for the for Jefferson County, so there's a bit of municipal employment in my history. I think that the Zoning Board of Appeals is a well-suited board commission for me to bring some flavor to. I have different commitments over the years that I've been part of. I served with the Cambridge EMS. I loved it, and it terrified me. I did it for 2 years, and that was enough. It's a very difficult thing to serve on as an EMT. So when my dad died, there was a call that I couldn't go on after that. It was just hard. But it was special, and I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed being able to be of service to people. So,
what part of the role of Alder do you feel most prepared for? And what part of the role would you find most challenging, and how would you handle that?
It's probably the same answer. I feel most prepared to represent two different groups of people, two almost exclusive groups of people. They're, in my opinion, there's the longstanding agricultural families of Fitchburg that hold a large percentage of the land to Fitchburg, and then there's the growing urban service territory, or the more suburban residents. I think that growth is essential and inevitable and needed, but in a controlled fashion and in a way that satisfies the people that experience that growth, both positively and negatively. So again, with my background in land surveying, in utility world, in real estate law, I think that it suits me. I'm well suited to hear the positions of the people in those different situations. Not really to, tell them how they should interpret something, but to hear how they do interpret something and bring that to this group. At the same time, that is the most challenging thing I think I face, is trying to hear everybody equally and value all of those opinions equally.
What, in your opinion, are the three most important issues facing the city of Fitchburg?
I think number one for me is the most important issue facing specifically District 4 would probably be neighborhood plans. There's a lot of controversy and a lot of prospect for those. I am on the side of the my opinion is that it's needed, but we need to bring services and opportunities and programs to all of Fitchburg, and that comes with space allocated to that in District 4. There's a large benefit that meetings bring and give people an opportunity to share their voice and feelings about those and learn about what they may believe to be true and not be true, and then quite the opposite. I think transportation and transportation infrastructure is an important issue facing the city right now. I was happy to see Sain Road recently completed and how that affects the commute for people in Fitchburg. Third, I would say civic functions and what is available. That kind of ties into the neighborhood plan, but what makes people want to live in Fitchburg? What makes them proud to be residents of Fitchburg? And everybody that I know is proud to be a Fitchburg resident. I've always had that opinion of people before I came to Fitchburg. It's probably one of the things, besides my wife, that drew me here. She does claim number one to that. But something I'm very proud of who we are as a city, and I want to perpetuate that.
Fitchburg is growing rapidly. How would you balance the needs of our current residents with those of our future neighbors?
I think that ties into neighborhood plans. Cities need municipal services and parks and space as well as homes. And I think that the neighborhood plans are well suited to control that growth, to provide opportunities for the people that do live here, but to draw the people that are coming here. I think balancing needs is just a matter of what we can provide and in the manner we can provide it in.
What does the city need to do to maintain or improve the quality of life of Fitchburg residents?
Very similar question in my mind. I think, again, providing the services that residents need and want, and hearing the desires of those people, of our community. I hear road quality a lot, and I actually think Fitchburg has some of the best roads in the state, definitely in Dane County. Having worked for a highway department, I've seen and rated some pretty poor roads, and we don't have that here as much as most municipalities do, I believe. I'm pretty proud of that. Don't have much of a part in it, but I'm still pretty proud of that as a Fitchburg resident. It's one of the things that I greatly appreciate about being a resident here. I really like that there's a lot of opportunity for cycling, for non-sedentary travel. I think we can always expand on that. There's a lot of opportunity, especially in District 4, for that to grow. Bike paths, bike lanes. We uniquely host a large portion of the Ironman route, and so we have 8 or 9 months for some of the crazies to get out there and be in our community. They did Ironman twice. I'm not doing it again. But, there's a lot of room for infrastructure growth. Not that we're lacking by any means. I certainly don't mean it that way, but there's always room to grow as a municipality. I think we've done a very good job of that, so I hope to be a part of that continued growth.
What is your position on housing growth in the city, and how do you think the city is handling housing?
Working for a utility and reviewing a lot of the neighborhood plans and subdivision plats, I think Fitchburg is doing a phenomenal job of controlling, regulating, and providing new housing opportunities. One of the things I really like about, seems to be in District 4 a lot, but one of the things I like is that there's a very, very diverse opportunity for single-family homes or condominium-style living, vertical growth, as well as horizontal growth. I think horizontal growth scares people the most, but that's subjective to each and every person. Some like the density and hate the sprawl, and others hate the density, the opposite of whatever I just said. Hate the sprawl, they like one or the other. And then there's people that don't want either. And I think it's necessary, though, that we grow.
What is one service, program, or initiative that you have experienced here in Fitchburg that makes you proud to call our city home?
That would be the roads. That would be the street value. But since I gave that as an answer already, secondly, I will say that I really appreciate us being a tree city, and I appreciate us having some of these trees are several hundred years old, and I love seeing that. Though it's a pretty bland road to drive down, Wayland, every time I drive down it and see the row of the old oaks, it's just, I feel connected to somebody that I've never met in a way that I don't really know, just by going through a corridor like that. So I hope everybody feels something like that, a connection to a community that never existed at the same time through trees.
How do you plan to keep yourself updated about the changing needs and issues of your constituents?
That is a lofty goal. I think that social media is actually a wonderful platform for that, and I'm going to give a little bit of kudos to Micah. When he came on as an alder, one of the first things that he did was a community meet and greet, and I didn't attend, but I thought that was a wonderful opportunity for one class of people to meet another class of people through you. I don't know if a lot of people attend each and every one of those, but the community meetings or social media posts, I think, are a great way to connect people and keep on top of current issues. Social media, you're going to get a lot of the responses, and you get to hear what people might not always be open to saying in public, either through a private message or right there on the screen.
How would you ensure that you include all the diverse voices of your constituents?
I think the inclusion of the diverse voices is actually the easier part of the question, and it's how to balance those voices and weigh what's being shared with me so that I can represent that as a council member. But the question that I would ask myself is, am I hearing what the loudest voice is saying, or am I hearing the representation of the whole? You know, I think there's a large group of people that don't want to speak out, don't want to stand out from the crowd, but still have something very important to share. And then there's other people that will speak out on absolutely everything that they possibly can. And, you know, you hear what someone's willing to say. So I think that's going to take some coercing out of individuals and engagement with folks to see what it is that they have to say and what they're feeling. I think that's a big time commitment of this role, and a necessary component of this role, to get out and talk to the people that live in District 4, and if that's through social media sometimes, if it's through community meet and greets other times, if it's the relationships that I have with people, I think that hearing all of those voices and making sure that everyone is accounted for is important.
Describe a time when you had to compromise, and how did you ensure the best outcome?
That never happens. Compromise for me happens every single day. I'll use land surveying, I guess, as an example that deviates a little bit from compromise, but is very specifically tailored to it. I don't, as a land surveyor, ever work for a customer. I don't ever have a client. I have someone that pays me, hopefully, but I never have someone that I'm going to do work for. I'm working for the land, and whatever the facts of the land are is what I have to share with two individuals who are oftentimes arguing over the exact same thing or have a belief that that thing is theirs. Compromise comes in when I have to explain the facts to the two landowners and figure out a way for everyone to feel satisfied in this situation. It may not be my personal compromise, but there's a balance that needs to happen there, and it's oftentimes very delicate. I guess for me, compromising is oftentimes, I would say, easier than I expect it to be. Usually listening and realizing that my feelings or my opinions, my beliefs are not the only ones out there. They are mine, and somebody else may share them, but it's not the only one. And compromise comes through collaboration. So meeting with people, hearing thoughts of other District 4 members, citizens, and collaboration make compromise fairly easy for me.
How do you plan to deal with conflicting public input on challenging issues?
It's probably, my answer is probably a lot more simplified than that it will ever prove to be, but listening. I think just listening and hearing people, making people feel heard and understood is a big part of my personal belief system. So there's always going to be conflict and conflicting desires, especially in a district as diverse as 4. Again, I think communication, information sharing is critical to that, managing that conflict.
And the final question, if appointed to the Common Council, would it be your intention to run for re-election in April 2026?
Yes. I think this is a special opportunity. I didn't expect this to happen, so the intention was to run for election in 2026. This is bonus time.
All right. So that is the end of our prepared questions. So we can move into a 15-minute period for follow-up questions from the alders and the mayor. We'll do it the same as before, but we'll kind of go through and let people have an opportunity to answer one question. And if we have additional time, people can ask more. Donald, did you want to kick it off again?
Sure. All righty. Fitchburg has seen significant growth and development in the recent years, but this has led to, in some places, increased traffic congestion, strain on public services in some areas, and changes in community character. How do you propose balancing the need for continued economic development with the preservation of Fitchburg's community identity and the quality of life of existing residents and residents that will make this their home in the future?
You want me to solve all of the world's problems tonight? I think it's important that all of our municipal services grow with that very expansion. I mean, we can't, as a city, we cannot sustain, a police department of 20 officers with 200% more citizens. We can't have the same 2-lane road with 40,000 vehicles using it a week. It's important to grow, and it's important to make sure that there's resources available to accommodate that growth. Our new police station next door is an excellent example of that. I'm happy to see services like that expanding in Fitchburg because it's necessary.
And I'm going to throw it to Micah next to switch it up.
Okay, so I think that, I'll say aside, I think that having someone with a background in agriculture in this city sitting on the council would be, a benefit and a good voice to have in the city. At the same time, there will be decisions that we will have to make that we may have a project that benefits other communities in our city, benefits the north end of the city, transit projects, things like that, that will then be paid for by property taxes from that same community. How do you intend to kind of balance those competing voices and kind of make those decisions around things that may benefit one area of the city but not others?
It's a very challenging aspect. I'm going to go back to collaboration and communication, listening to voices, but ultimately everybody in Fitchburg benefits from the things that Fitchburg expands or brings, the infrastructure that we have. And it may be hard to see for one individual how struggling to make a mortgage payment on a farm that's not bringing in enough money to pay for itself and resulting in, both family members or children or multiple, whatever it may be, having additional jobs to sustain that quality of life, means that an extra $100 or X dollars of their taxes goes to some function on the north end of Fitchburg that doesn't directly benefit them, at least in their opinion. There was a recent Ag and Rural Affairs public meeting at Four Winds Farm. Somebody brought up bike infrastructure, and I thought that was a very unique component, because you had a room full of people that did not bike. But my comment to the group, sort of the outlier in the room here, but my comment was, we're a community, and the bike community that's benefiting from what we're discussing at that moment may not be any of the members in the room, but that same bike community are not farmers, and they don't have the tax incentives. So as a community, we work together to bring services that may not benefit each and every resident. I don't know of a service, too many services that benefit absolutely everybody.
How would you explain an unpopular vote to a constituent? You're talking to somebody after you take a tough vote and they're upset with how you voted. How do you kind of walk through your thought process with them?
Well, my vote, in my opinion, is never my vote. It's the vote of the people of District 4, and that's my job as a public servant or as a council member, is to represent the people that are in District 4. So if I'm voting one way on something, it's because it's been asked for by the community that I serve and explained to them. It's not just turned in as I want no neighborhood plans, the end. We have meetings and talk about that and explain the benefit. And the best I can do is to bring their voice to the group.
Bill?
So we had, a pretty tough, tight budget. We implemented the vehicle registration fee. What thoughts do you have about levy limits and, the reason we had to do the vehicle registration fee is because the levy limits don't keep pace with inflation, preventing us from raising enough property taxes. But if there were no levy limits, we would have to raise property taxes. And nobody likes that, even if those taxes basically mean that we're not spending any more real dollars. So I guess it's kind of similar to questions earlier, but just thoughts on the budget and its
apparent growth when it may not actually be growing?
I would have to say budgeting is not budgeting, but my knowledge of municipal budgets is limited. That's my weakness, I would say. I do recognize that in order to grow, money has to be spent, and in order to spend, it has to be brought in. So wheel taxes and vehicle registration increases are a way of raising that money necessary to grow without having to raise property taxes. I don't know of anybody that's ever said that they were happy to see their property taxes increase, but I do know of everybody that's been happy to benefit from the things in the ways that those tax increases and growth benefits them. Nobody's ever too unhappy to have a nice road to drive down or a city park, but not real happy to see the extra $200 in vehicle registration fees. It's got a benefit, and I think it's best to explain that benefit to each person that you can uniquely, how it benefits them, how it serves them, what function it has.
Joe.
So I'm going to give a little context before I ask this question. So recently the city has approved an equity committee. It went from ad hoc to an official city committee. We have a pretty long history in our country as well as in our municipalities of making policies, whether intentional or unintentional, that harm folks either impacted by poverty or folks who are from marginalized groups. There have been instances in which the city has worked to address those issues. For instance, the creation of the hub, knowing that the neighborhood with a huge proportion of our city's population didn't have close access to park space. Another example was that, we were looking at a strategic plan, but we realized into the process that our consultant did not have, experience in, addressing equity issues, and it looks like we're going to have to kind of go back to the drawing board. As a member of the Common Council, what specifically would you do to ensure that the decisions that we make impact the most vulnerable people in our city, reflect the needs of the folks that have the most need?
I'm not sure how to answer that question. District 4 seems to have one demographic, and that makes it very challenging from a diversity inclusion aspect to weigh what one district is asking for when the other 3 districts are very different or very much more diverse. I think that the hub, as you mentioned, is a wonderful addition to the city. I hope to see more of that throughout, but it's a very well positioned resource. It's a start, but I don't know. How can I answer the question more directly? Maybe rephrase it for me. Sorry.
What are things that you as a member of this council can do to ensure that we have more equity in the decisions that we make to impact all of our residents?
I think that when I talked about collaboration and community meetings, that does not have to happen exclusively in District 4. It shouldn't, in my opinion. It might seem like a waste of time to some to do that outside of your district, but it's hard to represent one district without having a larger picture painted for you and how that benefit, how decisions made for or by District 4 impact 1, 2, and 3, or Madison, Verona, Oregon. I mean, especially when it comes to school districts. My wife is a teacher. She was a teacher for Verona High School for 20 years, and she now enjoys substitute teaching more, but that's Fitchburg that goes to Verona. That's Fitchburg that goes to Oregon. She subs in both of those districts, and some of those kids do come from District 4. Some come from 3 and 2, I think. I'm not sure the school district lines in our community, but knowing the needs and making sure that the decisions that we make as a council are equitable to all is critical.
Dave.
Emma, I want to thank you for recognizing the streets. I've been on Public Works for 33 years, and 7 other council members, the mean old bastard who just says no to their spending. So I appreciate you looking at that. The developers and realtors, and I suspect a number on the council here, favor extending the urban service territory to Whalen Road. Okay, that's kind of a hot topic. What is your thoughts on this? Because it'll have the most effect on your district.
I think any growth in Fitchburg almost has to have the most effect on District 4, aside from anything that's not redevelopment is in District 4. I guess on the west side of Fitchburg, there's some neighborhood plans and talks with the quarries to add large communities over there, and controlled expansion of the urban service territory is not only essential but inevitable. So when I talked earlier about urban horizontal growth versus vertical growth, condos and single-family homes, I think a mix of development and allocation for that through the neighborhood plans is the best way to go about that.
Other questions, since we have one final question, burning question? All right. Yeah, please.
So the question is about public transportation. The city and the council approved a budget last week about increasing the funding for public transportation. But there are some people out there, residents, that they say that we shouldn't invest more in public transportation because some of the buses are running empty in Fitchburg. What do you say to those people?
A lot like the bikes conversation. Some days the buses will run empty and some days they will be packed full. To maybe talk to Joe's point a little bit, an empty bus isn't an unneeded bus. It's not a bus that doesn't serve a purpose for at least someone. And much like what the hub brings to a community, the bus system is essential in the same way that the bike system is essential. Not everybody has access to a car, but everybody needs an income. And that bus might be the only thing that puts the ability to have food put on a plate or a shelter over someone's head. There's control in growth, and maybe that bus route does not need 40 buses a day if they're all empty, but we need to get a bus to that community for someone at some point in the day, and there's peak hours of operation or all hours. So again, just because it doesn't serve everybody doesn't mean it doesn't serve someone.
Thank you. We're at the end of the time for Alder questions, so we'll move into a final 1 minute chance for you to say any last words.
I am excited about this opportunity. It's a little bit of a new opportunity for me, having never served on a common council before, but not new in the sense that there's not been committee involvement. It's sort of the next step of growth for me, I suppose. If appointed, I would intend to lead with listening, collaboration, and a strong representative voice. I would want to make sure that the growth of District 4 represents the community interests and long-term interests of the citizens of District 4, and I believe in transparency and collaboration and information sharing. As I mentioned, I think that social media and community involvement and meeting with folks is essential. So,
thank you so much for joining us today, Adam.
Yeah,
we'll see you on November 25th.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, we are at the end of our agenda items. Our next item is number 10, announcements. Our next committee of the whole meeting will be January 28, 2026. We cancel our December meeting, so the next one is in end of January. The mayor has an announcement as well.
Yes, so it's a reminder to all the council members that on November 20th is the City of Motion kickoff event, 4 o'clock at the library. I hope to see you, all of you. The people that has not responded to Joyce, please send an email if you're going to come or not. But it's going to be great. I participated in the first one in 2017, and it was a great way to work together with the chamber and other stakeholders on how to put our strategic plan in motion. So that's it. Yeah.
What time is the ribbon cutting at the hub again?
There is an open house from 3 to 6, and the ribbon cutting is going to be at 5:15.
Thank you.
I hope to see you there, too.
Some important announcements. November 20th for that City in Motion kickoff, and then November 24th for the hub, the Park on Traceway Drive opening. That is the end of announcements. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Ragsted and Maldonado. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:17 p.m. Thank you very much.